Welcome to the Delight Your Marriage podcast. You're joining me, Bella Rose, as I dive deep into the beauty, power, and truths about intimacy. Learn not only the practicals, but the heart behind what making love is all about. Delight your marriage. All right, welcome back. This is Bella Rose. Thanks for joining. So this is part 2 of my interview with Ben, who is actually a former student, and he has been married 45 years and has got just fantastic insight, but not just over his marriage. I think the biggest thing that I want to help others to understand is that you can have passion regardless of your age. And he is living proof of that. And he's got a lot of understandings around health and medicine to help you with that. But then also, what does it mean to actually have a life that makes passion something that kind of naturally happens, even at 40 plus years? If it's possible for Ben, it's possible for you. So listen in and take notes. He's got a lot of wisdom to share.
So that's interesting. So in terms of when you made this shift, there was lots of like blood work that came out positively. Did you notice, was that impactful of intimacy health things as well?
Yeah. So, my wife really showed interest. And after we started listening to your podcast, and so what we did was I got a splitter for our earbuds, and we would walk. We try to walk an hour a day, and we would listen to Bella.
Oh.
And then we also listened to One Extraordinary Marriage, Tony and Alicia. But the reason why we listened to them some is because we ran out of your we ran through your podcast.
Oh, that's okay. You can listen to other people too. Yeah. That's all. There's some really good ones out there.
Yeah. But I noticed that we were progressing a little bit, but not a lot.
Yeah.
And I finally the light bulb came on one day, and I thought, I don't need to try to change my wife. I really need to change me. Because I had a hard time being vulnerable with her, and we didn't communicate. And so I thought, I'm going to call Bella. And I called you, and then I've told you more than once, I wish I'd had you when I was 20 years old, because our marriage looked a lot different than it does, or did the first 35 years of our life. Made an amazing difference in our lives. And my wife, she saw a change, and she is so thankful. And I've told you before, but she's so thankful for Bella. And then another huge blessing was that Bella started coaching my wife. And one of the things that she struggled with in her life was the concept of thinking that she was a bad girl. If she enjoyed sex, or she expressed, how much she enjoyed it to me. And she grew up in a very conservative church, and the message that she got was, sex is bad until you're married. But I think a lot of times she heard sex is bad, but she didn't hear it until you're married.
Right. Little part.
And so, yeah. And so she's, it's been a real struggle for her. And so I just have learned so much about how to treat her. And I didn't know, I think I thought women's wanted what men wanted in sex. I didn't realize that sex was different for women, and that you had to set the context. And if you don't set the context, then it's not going to be enjoyable for the lady. And that context is, you got to cherish her and make her feel safe, and go slow, and tell her how much you love her, and do things for her, and then and then they build up trust.
Mm.
And as you teach, and then they want to open up to their husband.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Wonderful. In thinking about, because I think a lot of men and women want to know also, like as they get in the older years, when things shift after menopause, you would encourage the BioTE, which is that BIOTE?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Medical.com. Okay,
yeah.
Cool. So I'll have that link. And then what you mentioned that you guys do walk every day. What other health things do you do that you think has an impact on your intimate life?
Well, and there's one other thing that's come on the horizon medically that I don't know if you and I have talked about it, my wife, and you may have talked about it. And that's it's called the O shot. Have you heard of that, or the P shot?
I have heard about it.
Yeah. So what they do is the physician, and my physician does it. They draw blood and then they put it in a centrifuge and they spin it and they get enriched plasma, and then they inject that into your penis. And so in that enriched plasma, there are these cells that are called mesenchymal cells, which will they'll grow into the cells that they're injected into. So in other words, they'll make the penis rejuvenate the nerves in the penis. They'll rejuvenate the muscles in the penis, and so the penis will get larger, and the sensitivity will be increased. And they do the same thing in the clitoris. They'll actually inject. It's a tiny little diabetic needle, and so it doesn't hurt. And they numb it first, but they'll inject that into the clitoris and in the G-spot area, and it renews your sexual organs.
Oh my goodness!
They're having some amazing results. So,
wow!
Yeah, it's relatively new. Most people haven't heard about it, but some of these doctors that are specializing, in BioTE are starting to use that as well.
Well, that is exciting. I definitely didn't know the details of it. So that is really interesting. Okay, so that'll be something that people can bring up to their doctors to find out more about and research around.
Yeah.
Okay, for men or for women. Interesting.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I've got a good friend of mine, a neighbor who's an internal medicine doctor who's really into diet. He's a vegan. He is a big exerciser. And one day I asked him if he was frustrated trying to practice more of a preventive type of medicine. He said, yeah, it's really tough because 90% of the patients that come in that are sick say, hey, I don't want to change. Just give me a pill. And so, some of the things that we're talking about are going to seem strange. They're going to seem difficult to people. But, the more pills you take, the more they react with each other. And when their efficacy drops, the longer you take them. And so for me, I've decided that quality of life is really, really important. So I am just trying to learn as much as I can and do the best I can, and realize that science continues to move forward. And next year we may not be doing, what we're doing this year, but we're going to just keep trying. Mm-hmm. And we have a lot of years to make up for. And things are better now than they've ever been. And so we're excited. I would encourage people to pray together. And we do that. And part of our prayer is we ask God that, He'll help us be the spouse that our spouse needs in sex. That we have exciting sex and we can help them with their needs. And then one of the things that you taught me that I think have been really good is we ask each other at the end of the day, hey, what were 3 great things that happened to you today? You hear so much negativity on television and in social media. Try to think about, good things. And when you do that, it brings you closer together. You're holding hands and you're praying, you're really being vulnerable. And so I think that just helps your spouse know that you're on their team. And I tell her, I say, we're on a team together. We're not adversaries. We're pulling together.
Mm.
And I don't want to do anything that would, divide us.
Mm.
So
I love
we eat right, we exercise, we get our gas checked every 3 months, we get our hormones checked every 3 or 4 months.
Great.
We get those pellets injected, and again,
Awesome.
he's really a conservative guy. You can trust him, and he's smart. He can work.
Awesome. I love
And
that.
I think we're taking care of business. I don't think we're taking any risks, and so yeah, that's where we are.
Yeah, I love that because Ben, your approach is really about a healthy lifestyle, healthy diet, exercise, and really the quality of your life being extended. And at the same time, there's these very natural things like hormones that, change over time, and having something like BioT, bioidentical pellets is a really great option. So that I think
Well,
that's
you think
wonderful.
about it, in 1900, the average life expectancy was, I don't think it was even 40. I mean, it was really low. So, ladies were having babies when they were 15. Um, by the time you're 30 years old, you've lost half of your eggs from your ovaries. And so uh, it's natural to run out of hormones when you're 70 because most, or it seems natural to me because most people didn't live that long.
Right.
And so we're really, we're entering a new era.
Yeah.
Some people, they don't want to give up. They don't want to give in, and they want to try to extend their health. Well,
Right.
I have a close friend of mine that just set a world record 2 years ago. It'll be 2 years in August, and he climbed Mount Kilimanjaro at 88 years old, and he's a vegan. And
Wow.
he climbed 22,000 feet.
88 years old.
88 years old. Yeah. And
Wow.
he exercises every day. He climbs mountains. He snow skis. Sometimes we limit ourselves by the way we think.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. Oh, wonderful. Okay, so Ben, there were a couple things that I think I went a little too fast on asking you about, but I think there were some specific health things that either you've read or you understand that have helped you along the way.
One of the things that I never had thought about was, what time do you have sex? And so my wife's a night person and I'm a morning person. And so nighttime's not great for her. And so we started having sex more in the middle of the day, or, right after work. And then I don't drink any alcohol before, we have sex. And then also, the bigger your waist size, the less firm your penis will be. The more
Wow.
erectile dysfunction occurs. And so I've really worked hard at trying to, get my waist down. And so we went on Weight Watchers together. Lost about 25 pounds.
Did
And
you?
yeah,
Wow.
but that's probably been the hardest thing for us to do, because we like to drink wine and we like to go out to dinner, and so we've had to, modify our lifestyle a little bit. But that's a good thing. Then another thing that I read recently was another book. It's called The Penis Book, and it's by a urologist. His name's Aaron Spitz. It's Spitz, and
Okay.
it's a 5-step plan on how to optimize penis blood flow.
Oh.
Yeah. And I'm not sure if he's still there, but he was in the urology department. I'm not sure if he's head of the department, but UCLA. I think it was UCLA. It was a college, might have been USC. But anyway, he's an expert. He said, I'm sorry, listeners, the plant-based diet he really is a big proponent of that.
Really? That's
Yeah.
fantastic to hear.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and I don't know, just a fun thing for your audience. They might want to do this. And I'm not sure if you've done it or not, but there's a video out on Netflix called Game Changers. And it's amazing film on sports athletes. And they're finding that these athletes that are embracing the vegan lifestyle, their performance levels are really going up. Nearly all the
No
professional sports
way.
players now are vegans.
No
Yeah,
way.
yeah, a lot of, believe it or not, a lot of boxers, a lot of Olympic athletes are vegans. I had a patient recently win the World Ironman competition, and he's a vegan. And so that would be a fun video if you're not a
Wow.
reader and you want to just watch something. There's also another video called Forks Over Knives. That's a good video that you might want to watch.
Yeah, I've seen, I like that one a lot. Yeah.
I left something
That's,
out about our kids. I'm going to
yeah.
jump off the map here for a second, but
No, it's
one of the things I heard our pastor say when I was young is, as far as he's concerned, church, and I'm getting on some really thin ice now probably, but church was not an option for his kids.
Mm.
And so church was not an option when I was growing up, and it was not an option for our kids.
Mm.
And I wouldn't change that. I'm concerned about what's going to happen to these kids, because so many of them are entitled, and I'm worried about how's that going to affect them when they get married.
Mm.
If you're entitled, I think you're selfish when you're entitled. And what I know for now, what I've learned from you is, to have a successful marriage is we have to learn to serve our spouse, and we have to do things that, there are days when I do things for my wife that I probably don't really want to do. But I realize that that's really not what it's about. It's not about what I want. It's about how I can love my wife and how I can provide her with the needs that she wants.
Yeah.
And so I'm worried about these kids,
Yeah.
that they've never been told no, and how are they going to manage when they get married?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I know some people are not going to agree with me, but that's I'm worried about that, and I'm seeing it more and more in our practices. Another thing is, most of our friends have gotten a divorce, and it seems like one of the common denominators is that the spouses will lose their focus, and maybe the husband will get really into his job, or maybe golf, and then the wife will get in taking care of the kids. And it's like, my wife and I, we intimacy was on the back burner, and only by the grace of God did we stay married. We had,
Wow.
we had some tough times. There were times in our lives when my wife said, we don't have time for sex, or we don't have time for sex very often. And so you need to find other ways to take care of your urges. So, and that's from being me being selfish and not taking care of her. And so, I've learned that from you, and I'm so grateful. It's too bad it took me that long to learn it, but I'm doing my best, to try to make up for a lot of lost time.
Oh, thank you so much. That's awesome. Well, this has been fantastic. So, what encouragement could you give to a man who hasn't been able to have passionate intimacy with his wife?
Well, I'd say don't give up.
Okay.
And I know there's some medical issues that can cause, and I don't know, we'd have to talk about, hey, what's the cause?
Sure.
Is it you and your wife are not getting along? I mean, do you need a coach? Or do you have a medical issue? Or do you have erectile dysfunction? I don't say this can be for every man, but I do believe that you can if you're having erectile dysfunction, then you can get it back.
Mm.
And I think you can have an erection like you did when you were 25 or 30. You might have to take Viagra to help with it. But I think if you'll do your homework and you'll practice some of the things that we've talked about on this video, that you can take care of that erectile dysfunction. And as far as if you and your wife are not getting along, I think do what King Solomon said to do. And he said, seek wise counsel. And that's what I did, when I purchased those books and when I called you and I said, Bella, there's something wrong. And I know that I'm responsible for this marriage. And I want you to coach me. I want you to teach me how to be the husband that my wife needs. So I think most problems, other than medical problems, I think you can solve them. It's not going to be overnight, and it's going to take hard work, but I think it's definitely worth it.
Well, and the amazing thing about your story is that you worked first. You decided you were the one that needs to do work. And like you said, in advance of her doing anything, really, even being all that interested in the material, you did the work first, which then made her receptive to it. And then I worked with her, and you and I continue to work together separately from her.
They'll say when you push, they're going to push back. So when you love, hopefully they're going to love back. And so I felt like, with the way I was raised, and I put so much priority on being successful, that I owed it to my wife to be the husband that she deserves. And I've learned so much about how to be a better person from you that, heaven forbid, if anything happened to her, I'm still going to be a better person from what I've learned from you. So I treat people better now than I did before. I love people better, and so I wouldn't take anything for it for what I've gotten from you. So
thank you.
I would encourage people to think about it. There's a couple other things. If we've got time.
Yes, please.
I'm going to read this. I just got this from John Gottman, and I don't know. It just really resonated with me. He said, in a dream world, all interactions in a relationship would go smoothly. Everyone would turn toward every bid with great enthusiasm, making their partner feel heard and understood. It's a nice wish, but it's not a realistic expectation of your partner or yourself. Even the masters of relationships, studied by John Gottman, didn't get an A+ on their interactions. They turn towards each other over 80% of the time. What does turning over or turning towards each other, what does that really mean? Turning towards each other doesn't have to be an enthusiastic response to count. Any kind of a positive acknowledgement of your partner counts. Of course, a negative response is turning against, and that's the one you want to avoid. No one likes to be ignored, shushed, or treated as a nuisance. The good news is that you and your partner are probably turning towards each other's bids more than you realize. Try to look for it and give yourself some credit. And I've been a perfectionist my whole life, and it taught me, that I don't have to have a perfect response for my wife when I do something for her. Just a thank you or a look, or touching my hand at dinner is like you said, it's a bid. And I need to understand that we all come from fear, and intimacy is being vulnerable at your height. That's probably the maximum height of vulnerability is when you talk about sex with your wife, or when you make a bid. So the other thing that I read this week, and I wrote it in my journal, thanks to you, is that Jesus said in Matthew 16, anyone who intends to come with me has to let me lead. You're not in the driver's seat. I am in the driver's seat. Don't run from suffering. Embrace it. Follow me, and I'll show you how. Self-sacrifice is the way to finding yourself in your true self. What a great deal marriage is, because that's a symbol of our relationship with Jesus. And if we put our wives' needs before our selfish desires, our marriage and our sex life is going to be so much better. If we replace our selfishness and our worldly desires with Jesus and his will for us, we will spend eternity with him. And what a great deal that is, to spend eternity with Jesus and to live a life of peace and love with your wife. And I think it really starts with us being unselfish and admitting that, we have faults, and we all have, John Gottman said, we're not going to respond 100% every time. And we just need to become aware. Contrast is the essence of vision. And so I've got the vision, because I've had 2 contrasting marriages. And so I would say the best thing that came from the first part of the marriage is it makes me appreciate so much more the second half of the second part of the marriage.
That is so amazing. That's awesome. Wonderful. Okay. I think that if there's any other advice or kind of final encouragements to those that are looking for ageless passion, you're welcome to share.
I would definitely pray about it. And the other thing that I did that I think was really important is I apologized to my wife when the light bulb, when the Bella light bulb finally went on. I apologized to my wife and told her that that I was sorry for things that I had done, and she was really good about saying, you've been an awesome husband. So I think I probably felt worse about our lack of intimacy than she did. Yeah, I think it all starts with prayer, and I don't think it's possible. Well, I think it's very difficult to do what we're talking about if you don't have the Holy Spirit. So I would start there. I would pray. I would ask God, make me into the woman, or make me into the man that you want me to be.
Yeah. That's what this is all about. Yeah, I love it. Well, Ben, thank you so much. This has been awesome.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity and the honor, because you've had some amazing people on your podcast, and I never thought I'd ever be interviewed by you. So thank you so much.
Oh my goodness, Ben, thank you for your story and for all the information and insight. For those of you listening, I'm going to have that all linked up in the show notes, so you can go to delightyourmarriage.com and search this episode, and you'll be able to get all the different books that he mentioned, as well as the different websites, so you can have access to that. All right, wonderful. Well, before you go, I would love to also give you a free resource. You can really understand the framework, basically what I taught Ben, what I teach Ben and his wife in my programs. And you can get that insight for free at delightyourmarriage.com/framework. And what that is really the bare bones of what I teach. And I mean, that all by itself gives you almost like a way to understand your spouse, to love them in the way that they receive love, which is different for men and different for women. So I'd love to invite you for that. Awesome. Well, again, Ben, thank you. God bless you to you listening, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Love you. Bye.